Okay, I think I'll do a little update. This is where I used to sit. I got a friend here. You want to say hi, Dalton? Okay. Over here is Albert sleeping, but Albert, you've seen him on a few videos. I'll just show, and then I'll walk and I'll do like a news update. I want you see this here. You know, yesterday I left Big Charlie. I came down here and Big Charlie was sleeping here or at that one. So I didn't wake him up, but I left him one cigarette in his Bible. Hopefully nobody else saw me put it in there. Now I didn't get to ask him today if he got it, but he was ready to do like a little fellowship up at Timmons. He read through James. I could tell he was ready. They don't ask me, let's do a video. Sometimes they do. But then I told some of the guys, oh yeah, I like limes, I like tomatoes. And one of them said, oh, you drink Diet Coke, John? He said, oh, I got Pepsi One for you. One of my other friends, I said, it don't make a difference. I drink whatever. As long as it's diet, I don't drink sugar. And you know, I was mad. I'll tell you why I was mad. I'll do a little walk. But when I got down here, I think Big Charlie, this was just sitting by itself here. It's not with Dalton. And I'm drinking the soda. I think one of the guys, maybe Big Charlie, came down here and I wasn't here and left a little gift for me. I was mad because I'll do a little news. I used to do videos here with Rick a lot. I went back to the house after seeing a lot of my friends. And I bought a brand new TV yesterday or the day before. You know, one of the, not real expensive, but I finally had a remote control that would work. Besides the other, you have two for my TV, for Roku, and then one that came with the brand new TV. So whenever I'm watching my news at night, which I primarily watch that or documentaries, I finally had a remote control that worked for the volume, turn on the TV, turn off the TV, as well as the other remote. When I got home, my dog had chewed up the brand new remote for the brand new TV into a million pieces. Now I have a spot where I hide that remote control. I made a little box and I glued it to a tape. He gets up now and he gets everything out of the box. And it was about 1 o'clock. It's a bad time for me that I normally don't feel well at that time. And I was mad. I'm still mad. And in your mind, and I thought, but the human condition. But I left the remote. I was going to do some work. Then I saw my homeless friends, Albert and a couple of others. And then I saw the gift that I think Big Charlie left me, those tomatoes and limes and the Diet Coke. Sometimes they'll buy me one. It was just waiting for me, you know, here. I would have taught, if I taught earlier when Charlie was wanting to was reading through James, we were sitting up at Timmons. But I think I'll just do this little like news update. Local, I haven't commented a whole lot on the local news. It's my bike right here. But there was a serious case that the DA himself decided to prosecute. Of course, DAs don't prosecute all of their own cases. You have a big caseload in Nueces County. And he's a new district attorney, Mark Gonzalez. And so it was a sad case of a 12-year-old boy that was shot and killed 3 years ago. Now, it took 3 years for this case to make it to trial, which it just went through trial. And the man that they tried, his name was Davila, something like that. And I read the case, and being Mark Gonzalez himself prosecuted, I'm sure he felt it was a strong case. And I just watched the local scene, because you have some unsolved murders already, unsolved homicides. The Corpus Caller just did a thing about it. And today the news was that was declared a mistrial because they had a hung jury. I think the judge was Jack Plucher or something like that. And it seemed the defense attorneys, I forget, Lisa Greenberg or somebody, they raised doubt. They were in another high-profile case here, I forget. But what they basically are raising doubt on is, this has come up before, they're saying the investigation by the cops or by the DA's office and all, that they didn't follow up all the other leads. That's used as a defense tactic, if you will. I didn't see all the evidence, but I read on that case. But also Mr. Gonzalez, Mark Gonzalez, made a statement as I was reading the last few days, his closing statements. He said something to the effect of, we did our best and we thought we had the right person. And that was part of the closing statement that I read in the local media. And I thought that was not a good thing to say right at the end, that you thought you had the right person. Now, I'm sure other statements he made were, we got the right person. But when you have to, this is a capital murder case, when you go beyond reasonable doubt, that could create reasonable doubt in some people. And obviously it did on the jury. Now they said they will retry that case. But there's so many cases now. Others. This was a high-profile one because he was a young kid, 12 years old. The Brett Kavanaugh thing, I've been watching it. The FBI concluded its, 1 week, another background investigation. People on both sides of the aisle have different views. When I watched that woman, Blasey Ford, give her testimony, and I watched it live the first day of the Brett Kavanaugh thing. To me, she's not credible. And some media reports were reporting that there was no corroborating evidence. True. But not only was there no corroborating evidence of her accusation on Brett Kavanaugh, but the people that she identified as the witnesses also did not corroborate, or they denied that there was a party and all. If you watch, interestingly, all the details of something, Miss Ford had various Miss Blasey Ford had various accounts of what happened at a certain party. And on some of them, she was maybe in her late teens. Then other times, it was her early teens. But then, after maybe she was coached, she put it down a certain date. Now, if it was a later date when you were able to drive, that would explain you drove to the party, you drove home, things of that nature. But if it was an earlier date when she was 15, when this supposedly happened, then you would have no explanation how you got to ride home, how you got to ride. But also within a couple of weeks of that incident, she gave testimony that her and her mother went to a particular grocery store. And she said, I remember her saying this, when they walked in, she said, you know how girls are when they are 15, they don't want to walk in the same door with their mother. So my mother went into one door, I went to the other door of the grocery store, and then I saw, I think, PJ, and he looked at me. Do you know, cannot remember the house, who drove you, but you knew in detail, you went with your mom. You see, she was too old, but she was too young to drive, so she couldn't say she drove to the store. But the detail of meticulously remembering, I went in a separate door. What that did was, it released her mom from having to testify to her account, which I don't think her parents actually, I think they knew she had problems. The other thing the detail she remembered was a detail that would exclude her mother as a witness. Do you remember taking a daughter to the store and she saw this guy PJ or whoever? So the details she remembered got around her changing story over time. Also, she gave testimony that she was in Rehoboth Beach, maybe Maryland. That she said that it was a certain city she was in when she wrote her testimony and so forth. And that was a woman that's also involved in the case that her ex-boyfriend, Blasey Ford's ex-boyfriend, said that Blasey Ford had coached that woman to take a polygraph. Now, that woman has come out and denied it. But that woman is a career, like FBI, Justice Department person who also had connections to the McCabe's, to all this stuff. And she wrote her final testimony before she went before Congress on this Kavanaugh thing, and she said she wrote it from that city. She was more than likely colluding with that friend. So it was she was too smart in certain details and too vague in others. Now, so that's just a little update I would do. Whether they confirm Brett Kavanaugh or not, I don't know. Who knows? But it wasn't just not enough evidence, but the people that were witnesses to supposedly what happened. And it's a shame that some of the media also had the porn lawyer Michael Avenatti, Julie Swetnick, another girl that said Brett Kavanaugh spiked country parties and all these things. But what you did was the Democrats raised that to a national level, that he did all these things. And now people say he shouldn't coach girls basketball, he's untrustworthy and all these things. When my dog Troy, there's some scriptures I could give, I won't give a lot because this is just up there. It says, when a dog returns to its own vomit. My dog Troy doesn't not know any better. He learned not to chew up the couch because they used to have to lock him in a room. And then when I'd come home, if he didn't chew up the couch, even if he chewed up some other things, I told my kids, I don't yell at him. I'm teaching him just not to chew up the furniture at this stage. Then I had a little room I put him in the back, but I left him out. But he doesn't know. He created damage and extra stress, but it wasn't purposeful. But can you imagine if all of this was fake, that this woman did, and the damage that she caused? It's possible that she's much more connected to have leveled that charge and to remember in detail things that would exclude her mother. I mean, I can remember my mom taking me to stores 35 years ago, but I could never remember she took me to a specific store, and that 35 years ago, I remember I went in one door, my mom went in the other because I was 15 and I didn't want to go in the same. Wow, what a meticulous memory. But I don't even know the party or the people. To me, it's highly likely that that woman made up everything and had one of those things that I mentioned on a previous video, supposedly a recollection of a memory. What happens next, whether on the national scene, local scene, people want to speak truth in all these types of cases. And if somebody that committed a serious crime, supposedly in the Davila case, he was going to take it out on somebody else, but he shot the first person who answered the door, which was this 12 or 13-year-old boy. And then the evidence was presented. From what I saw, it probably was enough evidence. But when people don't trust the system, I think the statement by Mr. Gonzalez in closing statements, well, he even said before they had a mistrial, he said, and if the media then wants to question me, well, and reporters want to question me, we can say we did our best and it's not our fault. I felt he's too self-conscious of, when you're on he was a defense attorney for many years before he became district attorney, inexperienced, but wanted to be progressive and do things. But when you allow that to play on your mind, even mentioning that in a severe criminal case like that, that if the media then questions me and we lose the case, all of that is, you see a lot of inexperience in that. The sheriff is stepping down and they put some heat on Chief Markle, who lives right back there, by the way, because my friend Don lives right there, across the street from Chief's house. And so they questioned some things about homicides and all. I was not here a few weeks back, but when I got here, some of my friends said, I got here after, but the cops were searching for something, but they told some of the friends they were looking for a witness to a homicide. I was not here, but they showed a picture and they didn't recognize who it was. I forget the name of the person. I think that had to do with this homicide of the lady Brenda on Slough Road now 3 weeks ago. So we want to make sure everybody does their best. I see some of my friends, I used to spend a lot of time here at Rec. I'll wrap this up quick, it's just an update. But it was interesting how when I got there, the lemons and tomatoes and Diet Pepsi was left. And they were all, as a few people asked me, do you like the tomatoes? You know, people that are living on the street. Dalton didn't get to talk, but I know Dalton. He didn't want to be on camera. He's younger. But you know, it's hard. And I understand some of my friends are homeless. Albert, you just saw him sleeping. I seen him yesterday riding my motorcycle. I stopped him. He's been working. He's been working the last few days, got a little job doing stuff. And yet he's on the street. It's a hard time getting his ID because Albert's from Alaska. He wants to go back, but he works. So we look at the plight of people. All right, this is just a little update. How everything else progresses, we'll see what happens, all right? God bless everybody.